number of pedestrian injuries goes down. So in order to do that, what we are, one of the main things that we want to concentrate on is education. Education and with initiatives where the plan is to go to, specifically, this is what I've noticed just by driving around and walking around all throughout the city is high school students. Everyone is guilty of it, but especially the young kids, they're always kind of walking around, crossing the street with their heads buried in their phones. So we want to do some outreach and just to make sure that we get the word out there that they need to kind of pay attention, put the phone in the pocket, pay attention especially when you're crossing the street. Unfortunately, it's kind of, it's not only the vehicle operators fault when it comes to pedestrian injuries. Sometimes it's also the pedestrian not paying attention. Not that it's their fault, but it's, it's, I think that as long as both parties are responsible, we'll have less pedestrian injuries. So that's one of the things. We're also gonna try to hit some community centers as well. And regarding enforcement, just to try to address the pedestrian injuries, what we did last year was we increased the summonses when it comes to speeding and also improper turns. One of the, when you take a look at the main cause of vehicular accidents, it's their rear end, but when you kind of look into it a little further, is driver inattentiveness. So that's, we also increased, in order to address that, we also increased the summonses for improper turns. We increased that by 13%. Last year we had, in 2018, we had 1,980 compared to in 2017, 1,751. So we increased that. We increased the speeding as well, specifically on Central Park West and on Western Avenue, where it's kind of, it's easier for the motors to speed because of the way the light sequence goes, and because there is less traffic than on Broadway and Amsterdam and Columbus Avenue. So when it comes to speeding summonses, we increased that by 23%. We had 1,076.
I just want to stop and say that's awesome.
We had 1,076 in 2018 compared to in 2017 we had 872. So when it comes to the initiatives and outreach that we want to do, there's also, we've noticed that the main corridors, when it comes to the main collision point locations are, our number one for the 28-day period is 66th Street and Broadway. We had a total of 5 collisions there for the 28-day period. Before I keep going with the collision point locations, I'll tell you.
What type of collision? Were they vehicle on vehicle?
On 66th and Broadway.
Did you identify the direction and if these are the same direction of travel and?
I didn't break that down. But we'll have that. We'll have that. I mean, if it's just 5 collisions, we could definitely break that down. But for the 28-day period, so the 28-day period is December 10th to January 6th. We had a total of 113 collisions. That is still lower compared to last year's, which was 128. So we had a decrease of 11%. But I still think that's a lot for the 28-day period. So 66 and Broadway is one of the critical corridors. And then that is followed by 65th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. There we had a total of 4 collisions for the 28-day period. And then followed by 66th Street and Central Park West with a total of 3.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
That period tends to be a time when there are lots of tourists in the city. Do you have an earlier period of October where you can compare that to the statistic you just gave us to see if it's unusual to have that many collisions? Are there more cars? Are there more bad drivers?
Well, there are definitely more vehicles on the road. I mean, they do say that it's, it's grid, they always put the gridlock alert for December. Unfortunately, do you have anything?
I could just say
It would have been a
113.
good idea.
I know 113 is a low number for us for a 28-day period. But I know in
too.
certain months we have 156 or something like that. That's the largest I've seen last year. So 113 is extremely low for us for a 28-day period.
It seems like all 3 of those spots are in the same area, and there's construction on, is it 65th Street? Do you think that the construction on 65th Street could be a contributing factor? Do you think drivers might be more aggressive because they're frustrated? Is it an area we'd want to get people to avoid?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, I mean, the drivers, they're not gonna tell us that they were frustrated, so they sped
Right.
up, or, you know, they kind of made an illegal maneuver. We do pay attention when it comes to, if we do ask the driver what, we ask each driver what how the accident occurred. So if they do say, well, there was a double parked vehicle here, so I had to kind of turn to avoid the double parked vehicle, we do note that. But unfortunately, when it comes to, you know, just aggression and being frustrated, we don't know.
Rich, 66 in Broadway, I think has been a trouble spot, one of the
Yeah, it
worst intersections
Yeah.
consistently for our area.
And they've redone it several, you know.
They've tried so many times. And of course, it's the transfers, so it's, you know, for the 15-block spans, the most traffic.
Yeah.
There's a lot
And
of
we're-
traffic.
People are just going.
What I'm thinking
going
is-
And going
someplace.
from Broadway, you can't go down Columbus anymore straight down. You have to,
Right.
you can't make the left turn to go to Columbus. Exactly, and that's why
I think that also kind of causes a little bit of confusion when it comes to people, because, you know, they're going one way and then they're like, wait a minute, where am I now? Where am I supposed to go?
Exactly.
And that just kind of sticks in their head and it just.
even for people who have lived here forever, it's still something.
Happens to me every time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering if we're steering people from the east side across the transverse and into that problem area. And if that's something that DOT might work to, especially while the construction's happening, to try to reduce the number of cars that are going right into that bad area. And
Isn't there a large building going up on 66th Street?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's
that's
gonna-
exactly the,
That's gonna be a disaster.
It already
In any
is.
number of ways.
The hut is already out there.
Depending if they're both going on at the same time, you know,
Which is probably
the
gonna happen.
ABC and the 65th Street building, we may want to speak to DOT about having signage on the east side warning motorists to possibly use some of the other transverses during that.
And there's precedent for that because there's two super tall towers going up on 58th Street at basically at the same time. And they do have those little diversion sign things.
Then again-
ABC won't be starting their building for 5 years.
Well, that's not true, the 66 at Western Avenue could be.
Okay, going to.
The answer,
I
that
forgot
was
that was
taken.
on 66, I was thinking it was further south. Right. Okay, West End Avenue will be much sooner than 5 years. They're gonna empty it out as soon as they can.
Yes.
Right. Any other? Are you done with the statistics or?
Yeah, I think I'm done.
Okay,
Yeah,
Ken?
unless anyone has any other questions?
Yeah, well, one thing I was concerned when you said that the signal timing on Central Park West is encouraging speed. Can you say a little more about that?
What you're saying, on Broadway is harder for you to catch your speed up because the way the lights are in sequence. On Central Park West, there's a bigger gap between the streets sometimes. So when you're standing out there, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the cabs are just going up because the only thing they do see is green compared to Broadway, you see green, red, green, red. It's just the way the lights are.
Yeah, what I meant was, it's more difficult for someone to speed on Broadway than it is on like Central Park West or West End, because there's more traffic on Broadway. So it's tough to speed on Broadway, plus
And
you
Central
get
Park
caught.
West and West End are all residential, the others commercial.
Exactly, and plus on Broadway and like Amsterdam, you get caught at the red lights,
Yeah,
so
you
it's
can do
one of
that.
those things where if they're gonna speed that one block and then they go, but what we do is, you know, the cops with the LiDAR detector, they sit on these other streets where I think it's a little more tempting for someone to speed when you see the green lights just turn green, and then you can just go because there aren't vehicles in front of
Do
you.
you know what the lights are timed for, what speed?
No, that I'm not sure.
Because I've heard that in some cases there's time for 30. 5
Depends on what time.
Yeah, it depends on the time of the day.
Depends on the time of the day.
Not the day they should.
Kind of
And we
just
have the
subject
ability
and
to-
stuff,
because
just
they're
so-
all computerized now, they can be changed by.
I think
We'll ask.
that's something we should.
We'll ask.
well, they should never be timed for 30 when the speed limit's 25.
Yeah, you're right. Also, I was gonna ask you is there a pattern that you noticed of the pedestrian injuries? Circumstances, like turning vehicles, or most of them get by turning vehicles pedestrians?
I'll be honest with you, I don't, you know.
For the, 28-day period, I'm just going off the 28-day period, we had 4 pedestrians struck. One was trying to catch an Uber, walked in between 2 parked cars, got struck. One was standing in the street, waiting for another Uber, car backed up in the parking spot, got struck. And 2 were at the crosswalk, and those 2 were issued ECD sentences for failure to sidewalk.
But,
We can't find you on the sidewalk.
But
So
when it
I
comes to
I was here tonight. At first I watched somebody leave my building and cross 70th Street in the middle of the block.
Mary Nancy.
Going in,
Yep.
well, it's pitch black out, walking between 2 cars.
What's the,
Unfortunately, he
size
did
of
make
that?
it to the other side, because I saw him on the other side. And then I got to 74th or 75th Street with cars coming.
6.5.
And I watched 3 people run in front of driving cars.
I'm happy you said the pitch black, that's another thing that we've been addressing, I don't know if you guys have seen on our Twitter feed.
Thanks very much.
We do have the, auxiliary police officers, they help us out, we do something that, you know, it's, pedestrians aren't aware that when you're driving, and they should be, because I'm sure a lot of them do drive vehicles as well,
Can someone
that when
email
it's
it?
dark out, the motorist can't always see the pedestrian in the street, especially if they're just popping out in between two vehicles in the middle of the road. So what we do is we have the auxiliary police officers, it's an outreach, more of an outreach thing, we hand out flyers, yeah. We hand out flyers and we tell them that when the sun, you know, after dusk, it's difficult for the motorist to see you, so just, you have to be a little more alert and a little more careful when it comes to crossing the street.
I'm sorry?
And what we do is we cross the street with them,
but
and it's just mostly an informational.
Studies show that in the vast majority of cases, the driver is at fault. And it seems that your approach to this is to sort of blame the victim.
I don't think that's true,
I'm
Ken.
not hearing that.
We're not hearing
Well,
that.
what I'm hearing is that the outreach is all focused on pedestrians to tell them to be more careful, as opposed to drivers to tell them to slow down, to watch out for pedestrians. They're in a congested urban area, and you can't drive like this is the
Well,
suburbs.
I'll explain a little further. This is the thing, when it comes to motorists, if you think about it, and especially in Manhattan, the motorists don't all live on the Upper West Side, they're from all over. They're from all over, a lot of them are working, they're just traveling through. So it's difficult, we do it, we try to reach out to the motorists, but it's difficult to reach out to every motorist. It's no guarantee that the same motorist that's here today is gonna be driving down the same street tomorrow.
How do you reach out to
So,
motorists?
we post things on Twitter, and it's enforcement as well, and hopefully the word gets out as well. I'll tell you guys about a plan that we have with Mr. Zellman too, but, when it comes to well, we have, no, we have we're trying to do some enforcement, but, when it comes to pedestrians, our thing is, you guys live here. So, in order to we try to get the word out to the people, the residents that live here, and so hopefully the word kind of gets out. You tell your friends, and that, it's unfortunate, but yes, it's the motorist, but we also have to pay attention. I'm not gonna trust that the motorist is paying attention to what he's doing. I wanna make sure that I'm paying attention, that I'm crossing the street.
Of course not,
That's
but
more-
it sort of feeds into everybody here has anecdotes about, oh, I saw somebody darting across the street, and it sort of, it fuels the sort of state of denial that we're in, that we're actually really at risk on our streets and through no fault of our own.
Ken, I think there's a strong distinction
Excuse me, I'm trying
Yeah.
to say
Nick is
something.
chair.
I drive West End Avenue every night, every Wednesday, because I have chorus practice. I drive 62nd to 99. If I go more than 20 miles an hour, I am liable to hit at least a dozen people. They dart out between cars, cars just pull out without even looking. People are all dressed in black with very dark clothes. I will tell you, it is like the Wild West. And I'm driving carefully, a lot of other people are driving carefully, and it doesn't matter, because people just flood into the streets. They pop out between parked cars, they don't pay attention to the lights
So
at all.
you're saying it's the pedestrians'
It is the
fault?
pedestrian, because
Well,
they can look, they have the,
Nikki,
they
you
have the
may have
ability to,
anecdotal-
no, it's
you may
not,
have-
it's true, this happens to
But
me every week.
any study that you read is in New York City, 75% are driver
Well,
errors.
that's fine, but
Okay?
the 25% or 50%, whatever number you come up with, every day on the street, and I drive at night quite a bit because I'm a real estate broker, I'm out here and there, I will tell you that people do not pay attention. They just don't pay attention. And they have a responsibility to protect themselves. And to me, that's, if you're walking out across the street, you have a responsibility
Of course,
to
if you're,
protect
if you're
yourself.
driving a 4,000-pound vehicle, you have a little
Of
higher
course,
responsibility.
of course you do.
But,
Yes.
but I've heard this from everybody, you know, the pedestrian does have some responsibility, for
Of
sure.
course they do, and the fact is that if the pedestrian was more responsible as to where they cross, how they look to see what's coming at them, there will be a reduction in pedestrian accidents. There has to be, because people have to be responsible for their actions, whether it's the driver or the pedestrian.
But keep in mind, Mickey, whether you drive, bike, or use mass transit, at some point, everyone's a pedestrian,
That's right.
at some point.
That's right, and you have to be careful, and you have a responsibility personally, and that has nothing to do with whether you're walking or on a bicycle. Don't even start me on bike messengers and food delivery people, but you guys are out on the street, you know what I'm talking about. It's everybody's responsibility, so there has to be a program that doesn't lay blame, but educates.
Yeah, Ken, I think there's a distinction between blaming and getting pedestrians to be defensive. And I don't think it's a bad thing that the police are informing pedestrians that it's smart to be defensive without blaming them. And I think they're also doing a lot of the right stuff of going after speeders, going after the vehicles that are causing a lot of the issues.
I just have one other question.
I have something I'd like to say.
Gentleman Doug's been waiting very patiently for a long time, so go ahead and wrap up.
The increase in your enforcement on speeding, I think it was, you said was up
Yes.
by like 200 or 300. Wasn't that mostly owing to the death of Madison Ryan on Central Parkwest? And there was a huge, the 20th day, something like 250 tickets
We,
in a few days.
the captain's only been there for a short couple of months, but we have increased speeding for the last 2 years in a row, because since the speed limit has, went down, people still think it's okay to do 45. You know,
And we have mentioned so many times to our state elected officials to have signs where vehicles first enter New York City, like
Correct.
after the GW Bridge, you know.
You've only
New York
been
City
saying that
law,
for 20
and
years?
they still don't do it.
I've been saying that
Yeah.
for 20 years, Andy.
I know.
Just anecdotally, I just want to say, it's funny, I had some visitors with me this week from Los Angeles, and Los Angeles strictly enforces jaywalking laws. And when I was walking across the street, taking liberty to go through a yellow or red light, my friends went, "What are you doing?" And I was, "Oh, that's right, they don't ticket you here for that." So there, you know, it is, there are a lot of people that
Change
do
that culture.
cross in between and cross a red light. But the other thing is that I've noticed, particularly in the winter months where the days are so short, some vehicles have automatic headlights that go on, but I see a lot of cars without headlights, which I think is a very dangerous thing for everybody. Do you issue tickets for, you know, cars without headlights?
We do, and we also issue summonses for broken tail lights as well, because that's something also that may contribute to the accidents. If someone's brake lights don't light up when
Sure.
they're stepping on the brakes, somebody's gonna rear end them.
Do you, like,
So-
do you ever pull people over when it's like not quite the time when, I'm not sure what the law is around needing to turn on your headlights, but like, even to give them a warning if it's not like ticketable? I don't know what the process is for that.
Many of them are automatic now.
Well, yeah, but there's older cars, aren't there?
As a civilian, I'll say lights, and
Oh, yeah.
often you usually get, or you get,
Yeah.
usually it's thank you.
Being kind.
Yeah.
So I have two questions. One is, do you think it's worth a joint effort to try to get a big sign at 79th Street? And as Andrew said, we've been fighting this for years, but saying, you know, speed limit throughout New York City is 25 miles per hour. And maybe if both of us are,
Andrew wants it by the George Washington
I want
Bridge.
it, but at the exit.
No,
from
Yeah, no, at the exit at
79th
79th Street.
Yeah.
We should have it both
We,
ways.
we ask all the time, and we're always told by DOT that it doesn't meet.
Because in many times, that's the first place a car, could be from Jersey, Ohio, California, who knows where. That's the first time they're setting their wheels
They're
on New
also
York
slowing
City.
down so they can see it now.
DOT
And
doesn't
then the
do
other question is, have you changed the threshold at which you'd give a speeding ticket since the speeding limit went down? Like, did you used to say like above a certain number and now is it 5 lower, or how did?
Each officer has their own threshold.
Yeah.
Some officers, rather to do it for 10 over, some
Mm.
prefer to do it 20 over, some people to do it for, one over. So it depends on the officer and the way they're gonna testify in court,
Yeah.
because when you go to court, sometimes if you write it for 5, the judge goes, the light off to be 5 below or 5 higher, and then they end up losing. so it depends on the officer and how you feel they want to testify.
How come losing is seen as such a bad thing?
It's
Because
not,
even,
I think that
It takes
it
time.
just,
Yeah.
you go there and you put your heart into testifying, and it's a judge there that just doesn't.
Right.
yeah, but it still could,
You're not out on the street.
it could reinforce good behavior, win or lose.
This poor gentleman's been trying to.
Maybe if I could speak.
Hang on, wait.
Thank you. As a pedestrian who's been hit in a crosswalk, I take exception to your comments. The studies that I read, the majority of pedestrians that are struck are in a crosswalk that says wrong. So your comments, I understand, are your experience as you drive on West End Avenue. People are popping out into the street, and they need to, and I agree with you, if that's what they do, they need to exercise more caution. My reading is that those instances, in terms of who gets hurt, are a minor part of the people that are injured. What I urge the police department to do is to enforce the laws that are on the books, specifically cars that do not yield to pedestrians in a crosswalk. If the police department stood on the corner and every time a car was guilty of that offense and you guys gave them a ticket, I think we'd see some reduced injury of pedestrians like myself. I was not injured, luckily, in the crosswalk. And I gotta say, I'm really upset. This is just a personal reaction. When instead of addressing the 4,000, 2,000 pound car that struck the pedestrian and trying to figure out what the police department can do to solve the injury problem by getting rid of the car in the first place, the police department puts the resources into educating students, as you said, teenagers, and I don't disagree, texting. But it's not this is an asymmetrical condition. A teenager texting, if you solve the problem of teenagers texting, and no teenagers texting, and they were all alert,
That would be pretty
looking for
amazing.
cars, that wouldn't solve the problem of us pedestrians getting hit by cars, because most of the pedestrians that get hit are not texting, and they're in a crosswalk and it says walk. That's why I'm upset, because I think the police, as great as they are not applying the proper policy to the problem to get the best result, which is, I think, vision zero. I feel very strongly about this, and I hope that you will relate my comments to your, to the powers that be.
She is the power that
in
be.
your,
Absolutely.
in your police department.
Well, just so you know, when it comes to Vision Zero, in order to bring down collisions to zero, as we all wish, the goal is we conduct not only enforcement, but it's also education. So that's why I mentioned educating the public. Just like, and I'll just give you a quick example, there are people that are pickpockets in the street, and obviously the criminal is the one at fault for trying to take someone's wallet or from their pocket or from their purse. But at the same time, we educate the public, letting the people know, if you have a handbag, don't put your handbag towards your back, where it makes it easier for the perpetrator to grab your wallet when you're not watching, and things like that. It's just about I'm trying to we want it to be a well-rounded education. When it comes to speed, just so you know, improper turn and fail to
yield to pedestrian.
In 2018, we issued 361 summonses for fail to yield. Every single time that there's a collision where a pedestrian is struck.
Excuse me, I'm gonna interrupt you. How many, bikes running red lights got a ticket last year, right? And how many people got killed by bikes, and how many people got killed by cars? I really think you need to weight where your focus is based on where the injuries are. And 381 fail to yields, that's gonna happen on any intersection, on any day of the year, and it's like water, it just happens all the time. Fail to yield happens all the time. Where are the police writing the tickets for that?
Okay,
So how about one
thanks
more
for your
question?
comments.
Thank
And-
you.
Yeah, one more comment.
I disagree with what this gentleman says. This is another situation of an me. You can sometimes see one car making a right-hand turn from Broadway and 72nd Street, going south on Broadway to try and go west on 72nd Street because of all the people that are walking through, and people yield. I mean, I see it in times where I'll see a space and I'll tell the car, you can go, and they won't even go because they know that's illegal. So I think that unfortunately, if someone incurs something, everything becomes much greater. And it's sort of like when you learn a new word, all of a sudden you hear that new word all the time. In any event, I just disagree. I totally disagree with you. I think people are very cautious about turning when there are pedestrians there. But I just want one more point, and that is, we had asked the situation about when a police officer goes to court and there's a truck driver or a car driver who has gotten a ticket for maybe they don't have a rear light, or they don't have a headlight, or they were speeding, they tend to dismiss those tickets or reduce the fines on those tickets. And we even asked for Linda Rosenthal to speak to the DMV, because they're not really judges there, they work for the DMV. And we asked Linda because to bring someone from the DMV down so that we could tell them what happens at these courts, and they won't come. I mean, Linda couldn't get them. And I think that one of the things that the officers are talking about, it gets very frustrating. You're doing your job, you go to a court, you present a case, and the judge says, well, they're right, you're wrong. I just think that that's a problem that we really ought to look into a little bit more closely.
Thank you. And thank you, officers, for your time.
Let me just, we've been looking at a particular issue for a while, and there's an explosion, obviously, of for-hire car services on the street, to the detriment of yellow cabs, but they're all out there. And we would like to suggest, and would love your support, that for the privilege of doing business on the streets of the city of New York, as they do, I mean, commuters are just usually going one way and going home. These folks are out there all day, every day. They should, whenever upgrading their fleets, incorporate the new anti-collision technology in whatever vehicle they purchase. I think that should be a law. I'm going to recommend it to our council members. It's out there. There are cars, there are even trains now, that as soon as they sense a person will stop on a dime and avoid a collision. A private person can buy those vehicles. Why shouldn't these fleets that are doing all this business on the streets of the city?
But I don't think the police can do anything about that?
No, they can't do anything, but.
Sure they can. They can-
Support on such a.
Yeah, I mean, if they weigh in,
They can support Linda if she tries to
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to do it.
they're really inexpensive. It's a few $1,000s extra per car.
For saving lives. I'm done.
It's a state issue, not a city. Right, it's a state issue.
Thank you so much. Thank you, officers.
I don't know.
We'll see you in 2 months, I hope.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
We're having a C-20 fixing, but where's the chief for?
Question number 3 on the agenda,
Yes.
First Direct.
Yes.
Within the last month, I had got a complaint for 70 and Broadway. I directly emailed, Fresh Direct. The truck hasn't been parked in that little park in that area. They actually moved to another location where they can be unloading and loading from 7 to midnight. And it's legal for them to stay there as long as someone is left.
Oh, good. Thank you. So it works if we ask.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. Okay.
And we'll
Thank
put
you.
that-
Thank you very much.
I'll make
So,
sure
before we go to, actually, technically our first agenda item, I just want to make sure, is anybody here for something that's not on the agenda and it's a simple one-answer question? Is this a question?
Yeah, well, no, it's a 2 months ago,
No, is it a question? I'm just, is
Yeah, it's a
anybody
question.
here because they just stopped because they need to ask
this will
questions?
just
Not on
take
the
1
agenda.
second, 1 minute. And that is, we have the Astor Hotel, which is on 76th Street, 75th Street, and you were gonna go by there, because they just have half a block where they use it to park contractors' vehicles. They have one side of the street.
That's still going on? I thought we
Yes,
heard
it's
about
still
that 6
going on
months ago.
for 3 years, and they've gotten away with it because DOT won't take away their permit. And
Right, okay. I'll talk to Roberta about it and see
Yeah,
what we
Roberta
can
was
do.
supposed to go see the building twice or 3 times already, and she is
But
unwilling
Roberta
to do
doesn't have
that.
the power of enforcement.
No, but she was gonna go see it when you were too, Andrew, remember?
Yeah,
Okay, did you see it?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Corey, are you,
Yes.
are you two?
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
Just very quick question.
Yes.
My name's Debbie Quinn, and I'm president of the West Side Little League. And I came to this meeting just to find out if your committee is involved with the Rotunda project.
We are, so here's the story.
That was the coach, his Parks Committee, right?
I know.
I know.
But I'm
And the
coming to
Preservation
all the
Committee.
committees.
I can
I'm
answer
coming
you.
to all of them.
So it looks like the rotunda will be coming on the 28th, which is a Monday. It's the parks,
With the park.
it'll be parks, transportation, and preservation.
Okay,
And
so,
probably a lot of folks from YEL too.
And I will know more about, I should have words by tomorrow or Thursday, that it's definitely on the 28th.
okay, but not at the YEL, which is on the 17th?
No, it will not be at the
Definitely not be
White
Correct.
House.
Okay,
No, no,
all right.
and
I just wanted to know.
One of the
I
reasons
was,
was they want you to be.
excuse me,
Sorry.
I was, DOT has encouraged the Parks Department, I've not spoken with them yet, about finding a better place to stage. So, so they are actively looking for that, and I can give you my contact information once I got something.
Okay, great, thank you. Appreciate it.
The reason it's done at YEL is because it would make more sense for you to speak to the people who make the decisions than to us.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay. That was it. That's today. All you. Do you need the screen or?
I do, yes, I'm back in business.
You got it? It's
Yeah,
working?
well, with a little help from my friend over there,
Did we put this back on?
yeah.
Oh, we open it. Put this back on. We have to move the chair.
Screen in.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's not plugged in.
Up or down and down.
I did this for 3 years, remember, Mark? It's been a while, but I still remember.
Okay.
Okay. This needs to be turned on. Roberta, can you push the power button on that?
Yeah, I did.
Did it go to sleep? Because the light's not on the camera.
If you can-
I hear it just turned on.
Corey Majari.
How do you spell your last name?
Magyaritis.
What's your role here?
Representing NVN Architect, and we are gonna be talking about some, improvements, alterations at the southeast corner at 225 West End Avenue. Now, I was here roughly a year ago, and in the run-up to a public hearing at the Landmarks Preservation Commission, I think I was here primarily to talk about the recessed, sort of secondary entrance along the south facade at 225, where we intend to sort of dress things up and put a handicap chairlift there, and we're going to make improvements to the gate, as you can see there.
So is that the gate? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
it's this one right here.
Okay.
And I have some other images to help sort of support that. I'm here tonight in connection with our DOT application to restore an areaway which existed previously, or would like to reinstate it. In these, on this corner here, you can see where the windows have sort of been buried up to their necks. There is an areaway right here. It's original. It exists. We would like to reinstate the areaway which existed along this corner. The areaway will come out no further than the existing one does. And just to sort of maintain the required clearances, we're going to chamfer the corner. We'll get to the sort of the details of that.
Chamfer means round out?
It's sort of
Kind
cut
of
the corner.
trim at a diagonal. Here's a look at the existing areaway at the south. It would be the west side of the south facade. And this is where we are here to garner your support for allowing us to do the areaway.
Are there apartments down here?
There are no apartments down there,
On
but
the
there,
other side there were.
it's a community facility sort of space down there, yeah. So
Even on the other side?
yes. There may be part of it along the east facade I think there's some utility spaces along there.
So you want it on the street and on the avenue?
Yes, 70th and West End Avenue.
How much sidewalk would that leave?
I'll show you. So here's a,
West side of the avenue, right?
yes,
It's the
west side of the
northwest
avenue. This is a historic photo which actually shows where this areaway did exist. Now the gate is considerably taller than the one we're going to put back. I think it was more. The original gate was roughly the same height as that gate that's still there. That gate at that southern entrance, we believe, is original. The new gate for the new areaway would only be 4 feet tall. So this is what that areaway looks like now. Kind of, we're making improvements to the storefront, cleaning up these doors, cleaning up the brick, and then here's a look at what it will look like. We're actually doing these sort of light, these are sort of kind of towers with globe lights at the tops of them, at the entrance there. We're also doing some wall-mounted lights in the globe lights down in the recess. You can see kind of mounted on the wall there above the doors.
Where does that lead?
It leads to the community facility space.
So if someone wants to go, they have to come outside though, to get down those steps?
You go down the steps, there's like 7 or so steps to a basement level.
And there'll be a ramp?
There's no ramp. There's going to be a handicap chairlift. You can kind of see it.
And who will be going down to that community facility?
Is this approved from conservation? Isn't this-
Yes.
You are
this
listed.
has already been approved. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were there. This was the original presentation. Yeah, it's the same presentation I gave the last time.
So why did it take a year to get there?
DOT.
Huh.
So right now, if somebody wants to use the community facility, how would they get there?
The stairs are already the stairs are already there. All we're doing is
So I never see anyone using those stairs. I've never seen the gate open.
no.
I live across the street.
Oh, is that right?
She's been asking for information.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a lot nicer going down those stairs when they do open up the gate and when they do get the community facility up and running.
So
So
it hasn't been used.
I don't know if they're using it right now. I mean, it's not a very nice space, just because it feels like a basement because the windows are cut off the way they are.
Do you happen to know what community facility is going to be using it?
I don't.
So it's going to be, you're going to be leasing it to a third party, or is
I mean, we're not the owners, we're the architects, but
Because obviously this is not a commercial space. This is
Not a commercial.
professional medical community
Community facility, yeah.
I seem to recall when I was a little boy that there was a laundromat down there.
Oh, really?
So, so what needs to be approved by transportation?
Because
Really,
it's using this, they need a preservation because it's historic building. They need, they've already come before
No, I understand that. What specifically are we approving tonight?
this sidewalk, they've already
The-
gotten the elevator approved.
The areaway.
They're now looking to approve the area.
You're gonna dig down again to
No, the walls are already there. The walls are already there. They were backfilled or you know, we're gonna unearth the walls that are already there.
new fenestration there.
I'm sorry?
New fenestration.
We will more than likely be replacing the windows, yeah.
Why was it filled in?
We don't know.
And how
Why?
wide is the sidewalk?
Yeah, you said you can tell us how wide the sidewalk is.
At its narrowest, at the narrowest point, it's over 6 feet. 6 foot 1.5, which is, this is right where right at the chamfered corner right there. Oh, right here.
That's the shortest.
So it's
Yeah.
6 feet on 70th Street. How about on West End?
I mean, you have 14 feet,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
So we use,
And you're taking 4?
how much did you take?
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, can I call for a vote? I guess this needs a resolution, so, can we have a motion, please? Okay. All those in favor? Okay, and opposed and abstaining, all those non-committee members?
Aye.
That was enthusiastic, me too.
8002?
800.
No,
8000.
80002000.
I'm sorry?
What's the address?
225?
West End?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
20.
it's all approved.
Right.
So, one question.
Sure.
In this picture, the windows here are much more exposed than the windows here, and it's because of the sidewalk, I guess,
Right.
relates.
Yes.
How do you compensate for that? You're not changing the sidewalk elevation at all, are you?
No. Well, I mean,
Is that the natural rise?
there will be a we're gonna reinstate the window well. I mean, we're calling it areaway, some people call it a window well. So once we remove the backfill that was put there, restore the
You
walls,
don't expose the-
yeah. Mhm.
And so how deep is it from the sidewalk?
You've been approved.
From the sidewalk, it's about 6 feet.
And what goes on the bottom? Is it just,
There's gonna be a concrete slab.
yeah.
Can we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up.
Sure.
Last questions? Okay, wrapping up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're
My
good.
pleasure. Thank you, folks.
We have you here from 884 West End Avenue.
And it's afterward of this conversation, in case you're interested.
I just turned this off by shutting it.
I'll take care of it later if you want.
Oh, okay. Then I
Do you have
that.
something to project?
So much
Getting
for
so comfortable with my work.
May need your name after, if you have a card, or I'll write it down after.
It's warming up.
At 884 West End. Oh, a shanty square, oh, it's a building. Shanty, what is it?
Chamfer.
Chamfer.
There's another new word for you.
Bevel.
Chamfer, it's a bevel.
I you know, when you take SATs again, you never know. Gotta
Just
keep on
join
top of my
preservation,
vocabulary.
just join preservation, it's much more fun.
Nowhere near enough patience. You guys are so thorough.
Oh,
You do
there
such
probably
a
is.
good job.
Oh, think you got it?
Yeah, it's right on the,
Okay, ready?
That looks like 225 to me.
Yes.
Rich, can you work on the focus
Careful,
first?
me. Sure, it does look like one.
sorry?
Do you mind holding focus, or is it blur my eyes this time?
No, it's not, no.
Well, help me on the focus button.
Are you gonna
That's
look
it.
at this, okay?
Oh, sure.
I'm just curious how that's projecting if this is not even logged in.
Okay.
Magic. That's my explanation.
Might be like, is
for
there a
anything.
RAM in there?
You're messing with it when it's with you?
Yeah, I know. Well, you can't,
Okay.
you can't like move
So-
the slides.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's your problem. That doesn't work. Oh, okay. So here's what we're gonna do. Yeah, come on. He's arguing. Okay.
There's a picture of me, one of my marketing directors that was there at Mansion. And it was from 5 years ago, and it was dim lights. And she said, "You look so much, oh, it looks good."
Yeah.
Thanks. Yes, so much younger, thank you so much. She's no longer my marketing
But you
manager.
look the same.
Thank you, apparently not according to the picture.
With or without blue though.
I saw the
Even though
funniest
it's not
cartoon.
actually
flattering.
The funniest cartoon for New
Thank
Year's
you.
resolutions, and I gotta send it to you all, but there are two ladies sitting at a table, and one lady says, "My New Year's resolution is to stop putting my foot in my mouth," and I suppose yours is to lose weight. There's a cartoon, two ladies sitting at a table, and one first lady says, "My New Year's resolution is to not put my foot in my mouth." She goes, "I suppose yours is to lose weight."
And
one of our justices was not, unfortunately.
No, Victorious was not there, sadly. But it was amazing. It's amazing.
All right, they're ready.
Oh.
Okay, thank you guys.
Take it away.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, so we are here to present a handicap accessible ramp at the entry of the building, 884 West End Avenue. Coincidentally, you saw this project last year, same time as the other gentleman's project,
Oh,
and also
Yeah.
DOT, yes.
oh, okay.
So this is,
I guess you should go to the next page. So the outline in red is the ramp along West End Avenue.
Try to get you on the screen.
And we've already been approved by Landmarks.
So, you can do a ramp?
Yes.
Ah, that's easy. There you go. And how much sidewalk will be left after you put the ramp in?
From the stairs, after the extension of the handrail, it is 11 feet, and from the ramp, it is 14 feet.
So the ramp doesn't jut out as far as the stairs?
As the stairs, yeah.
Sounds good to me.
sounds good to me.
Motion to approve?
Great. Mark?
So one of the things we discussed at preservation was, if I remember correctly, the rise of the ramp had left a space in between the ramp and the facade of the building. Can you go back to the plan? Thank you. Because if I remember correctly, there's a building newel post or something that sticks out here, and then the concern was that garbage would collect there. And we encourage you to think about that, although I don't think we conditioned our approval on that issue. I'm just curious if there's any further thing.
So when we went to the landmarks kind of disapproved with the planter, and we were kind of forced to take the planter off because they did not want it to disturb the elevation of the building, which could be covered by the plants. So we had to take the planter off.
Can't you put
So the people are gonna,
Could you put some kind of a,
Put some kind of grill or something?
yeah.
They just did not want anything there.
So could somebody actually like slide off the side? There's no rail there, there's no embankment, there's no, nothing.
There's a
you can just-
curb which we are giving 4 inches curb,
Okay.
so I don't think so they can slip
They
out.
won't do that.
Yeah.
How much space are you talking about in that area?
It's 1 feet, 1 foot.
Is there a way for someone to be able to clean in there?
Yes, there will be,
Okay.
because as it's 1 foot.
So they said it's 1 foot and.
Yes.
So
11
they're saying it's 1 foot and there's a way for.
So 1 foot is 3 inches.
I know, but police officers going to have to clean it, and Mark's concern is
Yeah.
that police officers will not clean it.
So
Is that what I'm saying?
to get in there.
not approved.
Oh, I thought you said
Or
another
they
one.
put in flowers or a planter or something,
Which they did.
which needs nice.
What about a grade?
Tested
A grade of
and then
some
marked
sort?
up and down.
A
We
grade?
kind of asked them up, but they did not want
They
anything
didn't want
there.
a grade either.
No.
They don't want a grade, they said landmarks didn't want a grade
That's
either.
fine that they asked.
Okay, okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to
I have a
approve?
question.
Okay,
Strictly safety question, so you have a little opening there under the ramp, if a animal or small child were to fall down or go down there?
Mhm.
Is there a way easily for them to get out or under?
Ramp solid?
Yes.
It's not a void, it's solid.
It's,
small
it's
child.
solid, yeah.
No,
Ramp is
under the
solid.
ramp is solid.
Under the ramp?
Under
So
the ramp,
so
yeah.
They would just be in that, they would be,
You're talking about the gas, right?
yeah. They fall.
Yeah, the-
on both
Underneath the
The ramp itself is a concrete ramp.
Okay, so it's just an open area, if they wouldn't fall any further
Yeah.
down or go
Yeah.
under, it would be
Mhm.
self-evident where they
What's
are.
along
Okay.
the side of the ramp? Is it,
Do you have
is
another
that
picture
open?
that shows?
There's a curb, a 4-inch curb.
Is there a glass panel on both sides of the ramp? Okay.
That's good.
The ramp has one.
So you can't get under the ramp.
No, you cannot get
You
under
can just
there.
drop
Yes.
garbage or something.
Yes.
Is there a glass
Cell
panel
phone or
between the
something.
rail and the curb on both sides of the ramp?
No, we are not proposing the glass because they did not, landmarks did not want the glass either.
Are we satisfied?
So how do you
Wait,
meet
Is
code?
it just open? I'm confused. Like between the rails here? Is it just open?
It's open,
Open.
yeah.
You're not required to have styles in there?
No, we were told by landmarks it has to be very minimal and very simple in design.
You know, I'm with you 100% there. My concern.
Oh, style.
Is DOB. It's
Um,
a code issue, not a landmark issue.
Mm,
Child on the ramp. Can a child fall off the top landing onto the sidewalk? What's the dimension?
Yeah. It's usually 1 foot, isn't it? If it's 1 foot, the elevation
1
is
foot.
1 foot or
1 foot.
smaller,
Yeah.
then you don't need
Individual styles,
in
yeah.
between the posts.
Yes.
Is that less than 1? Well, anyway.
It can't be more, I know this, but shall we find it?
Yeah.
There's no way. Even the drawings got some kind of stuff. Do you have glass panels there or something?
No,
No, it's just open.
just open.
The existing
And this is
risers look to
by
be in
DOB
excess
too?
of 6 inches.
No,
This can't be.
They're not?
we have submitted it before, but
This can't
after
be
the,
according to code. We've
No.
done dozens of these in preservation, and they never allow this kind of open space.
we,
Between the ramp and the building?
Yeah.
No.
As
No,
well.
no, no,
Along
no.
the- along
On the edge of the ramp.
Yeah. That- if
So you
somebody
could fall
needs to
off,
hold
you
on,
could
Rich,
fall
let me see the
off.
drawing.
fall off,
Child could duck under the handrail and jump off.
Right.
or somebody could slip off. If you're walking with a walker,
You
even
could
though you've
slip.
got a bit of a lip.
no, but we have a 4-inch curb
Both sides.
on
4-inch
both the
curb is
sides.
more high.
Orange is about 42 inches, which is good, which is.
Okay,
good.
Mark?
So what I would propose that you do, I can't make a resolution for your committee, but if it were my committee, what I would propose that you do is move to approve it with a comment that the committee, in the whereas clause, that the committee expressed concern that there was a code issue beyond the scope of a transportation approval. This is a revocable consent from the Department of Transportation. But that the committee was concerned that there was a code issue based on the absence of stiles in between the posts that hold up the rail. That's what I.
Can we also put in the comment that was concerned about the
Yes, of course.
By all means.
Of course we can.
The answer to that.
Just to this.
Yes,
Well, but it's a
We
matter
still
of
could ask.
building
It's going to
and
DOB,
building,
DOB might,
I have
I
one
suppose
last.
what you wouldn't want to do, in my opinion, is condition the approval
No.
on doing something with that space because we already know that they tried and failed.
Sort of like an urge. include the building.
No reason not to do that if that's what you're looking
Okay,
I have
Nikki?
one question, which is a little bit off topic, I apologize, but are you changing the doors themselves from the?
No.
You're not?
No.
Oh, dear.
All right, someone want to make the resolution?
Okay, hold on, wait.
Mark?
Doug,
Fifteen,
you
very,
question?
very, very sidewalk to top of tennis.
My question is, the.
1'3"
What is the maximum height?
from the top of the ramp, basically called the apex, to the ground. 15
1
inches.
foot 3 inches.
1
15
foot 3 inches?
Yes, 15 inches.
So you got 1 inch per foot grade change per code, right?
Yes.
So it's only one foot.
That's the maximum height from the top of the ramp.
It's 1 foot 3 inches at the top of the ramp, where the landing is, stair landing is.
To the sidewalk.
To the sidewalk.
Okay, do we have the chair would welcome a resolution, a motion to, so moved, thank you. This will incorporate Mark's suggestion, by the way, so all those.
Well, and my suggestion, which is that we encourage the
The
building.
open space and garbage, yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Both suggestions. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All those opposed, all those abstaining, all those in favor or not on the committee? Oh, sorry.
So it's
1,
8 to
2.
0, 0 to 0, 2 to 0.
You know what I mean.
And the full,
I'm a new chair, a new vote.
the
What
full,
can I say?
it comes before the full board, which would be Tuesday, February
So the vote
15th.
is 8 to 0
Yeah,
to
no,
0,
sign
2 to
that
0 to 0, 0.
What bylaws change would it take to give Preservation Committee the right to approve on behalf of transportation? It just makes no sense for them to have to come twice for the same thing.
I actually asked the question if this caused them any delay, and it doesn't, it's DOT that.
Yeah, they're still coming out 4 times for the same
Well, I don't
project.
understand why.
It's extra cost for them.
This is coming before.
It should have been
Preservation
July.
and Transportation.
You're
They shouldn't be
Thank
joining
you.
It should have been
Thank you.
Julie.
This will be voted on at the next full board meeting. I would not see problem with it,
They
although
are
you're
not
welcome to
eligible
come.
to complete their
It's on the bottom
application
of the
before
Okay.
DOT until
Thank you.
That could be a good answer.
But can it be approved by our committee before
All right, I'm gonna
DOT?
turn off the equipment if that's
Yes.
okay with everybody.
Okay.
Except that
thank
you'd be approving something that.
Appreciate it.
You'd be approving
Can
an
I
application.
ask you guys?
I don't have it.
Right, you're right. It's just for
I
the
think it's
minutes.
crazy to make people come out 4 times.
How do I,
That's like a 19.
I don't disagree.
Preservation, I also completely trust preservation to approve on behalf of transportation. Yeah, we're not dealing with any transportation issues ever.
We don't look at how much.
You need to just turn it off?
I think I just.
But I would trust you to do so. And to have that awesome power.
Plug in.
Chair preservation, I'm happy to take that on, but I don't think.
Is that a bylaws change, or what change would it be to
It would
make?
be a change in DOT procedure, it's beyond my scope.
Excuse me?
Thank you so much.
It's not a bylaws change, it's Department of Transportation.
But do they need the transportation committee to approve it, or just the
No.
full board? So if our full board approves something that
No,
preservation has approved, does it
No.
need to go through transportation committee?
it does. If DOT, if it's not, has anything to do with us, it has to do with outside city agencies and what they require. So if the city.
And they require both a committee and an agency
They-
approval, and a full board
They
approval?
acquire, they,
LPC requires preservation, DOT requires us.
And we can't give that power to,
I'm gonna find out, but it looks like we
Yeah.
can't have a combined meeting, which would be better. I will ask.
This is a quick thing, we talked about it at one of our previous meetings, but we are following up on the trying to do an e-scooter / emerging technology session. BCI is also very interested in working with us on that. So we are planning to try to do that in April when the weather gets
Right.
a little bit nicer. And I'd like to, if possible, be able to have this on the agenda at the February transportation meeting, so we can plan it fully. But just wanted to make that announcement.
say that again, a scooter and what else?
Just the discussion about the e-scooters also, and I think there are 2 things that we talked about at the last 2 months ago meeting. One was sort of delivery bikes, and that, which I think is more of a BCI issue at this point. And then the second is sort of the rise of e-scooters and how they're going to be regulated in New York. which is
e-skateboards and
And are you saying that this would be a joint meeting of both issues, or just the e-scooters?
The first one will be e-scooters, because I think it's easiest to organize for April. And then the delivery bikes, question is gonna be.
About delivery drones.
That's gonna be part of, that was part of it, that'll come into the discussion.
I can see the
But-
ads on going right into my.
So I'm hoping we could add that as an, I don't know how busy the February meeting's gonna be, but I'm hoping.
I have not seen the agenda yet, so I don't
For
know.
your.
Well, seemingly
to make
Fresh
sure.
Direct is coming.
And yeah, Fresh Direct will be there, so it'll be a good opportunity.
Oh, Fresh Direct will be there, awesome.
So-
Okay, so we're on the last item before new business. Discussion of delivery vehicles, Fresh Direct, Amazon, Whole Foods, Walmart, Peapod, FedEx, UPS, and others, and growing traffic congestion, and a possible citywide solution. Fresh Direct will attend the February transportation. So this, I assume, is just really in preparation to actually meet with Fresh
Right,
Direct
right.
next February.
You
This
may
next
recall-
month. It is next February, but it is.
Yeah.
You may recall that we've had them at a previous meeting, we've talked to them, we've shown them that we would like them to have brick and mortar location from which they can fan out and make their deliveries.
Sure.
And they've opted to stay on and use the city streets as
I
their
heard
place
that they're
of
not
business.
allowed to do that, that there's
I
some,
don't care that they're not
Yeah.
allowed to.
yeah.
Well, their VP of Operations directly answered a question I had when they were last here, saying, I asked, is it possible for you to run your business legally? And he flat out said, no, it is not.
I was there for that question.
From what I
additional
understand,
question.
and we should check this out, and I was talking with John the other day, and John seemed to know that they cannot have a brick and mortar location unless they're selling stuff. So, in other words, they can't have,
Distribution.
they can't,
You can't have a retail slot.
they can't
of
take a
selling
retail
something.
spot
On the street.
and not have,
A store.
and not have a store, so,
Is that a zoning thing?
yeah.
Well, maybe
Wow.
that's is that a
Yeah,
ULURP
sure.
change?
They are selling stuff.
But this is an answer.
They're not selling stuff, so I can't go in, I can't, well, so let's say they had a store at the corner of Broadway and 87th Street. I can't go in and say I'd like a loaf of bread.
Well, they could just sell like Fresh Direct stickers.
It's true, but they don't wanna do that.
Is Fresh Direct the
sell
only bad guy
subscriptions.
here?
I'm not so sure if that's.
Well, no, that's the only bad guy as far as warehousing. As far as these others go, it's,
There's other issues to Fresh Direct. There's where they've chosen to always put their trucks. There's the fact that they're running and belching fumes during the day.
oh, absolutely, there are a
There's
whole bunch
noise
of issues, yes.
So the
They're,
other
they're
guys,
plotting
the
themselves in
issues are
front
not
of
as
brick and
bad.
mortar stores that might like some
And here's
visibility.
here's the other issue, that, you know, the technology is now so good that they know when they're gonna, you know, I can order Fresh Direct, I can order from Amazon, I can order from almost anywhere, and say, I want it delivered at 8 PM tonight.
And
Or
they use
between 8 and,
GPS
or,
they
you know,
know
I have a
exactly where
window.
everything is.
So they can deliver it to me between 8 and 9 tonight. Of course, they can't because I'm here. But, so why can't they arrange, I mean, that's,
Unbeknownst to you, Roberta, they've already left a package at your door.
right.
Well, because they bring in the
Yeah,
entire
it's not
truck
to-
for the, like,
Right.
for.
Right, and they take
full-
it,
It-
and then
it
they
goes to
pull
4
that
hours.
truck out and pull the second truck in.
Okay, Rich.
I think there are two issues here. One is that some delivery vehicles are coming in, making deliveries and leaving. Others, and especially Fresh Direct, are coming in, keeping the truck parked for an 8-hour, however long window, using that spot as a distribution center. And so it's not that the technology is good, Roberta, it's that they're parked in a certain area, keeping it there all day, and then delivering by time slot.
No,
So-
I know what they're doing.
And so
Imagine
I
if the
think
window was right above where they're.
You know.
I think they're two totally different beasts of trucks coming in, making deliveries and leaving, or trucks coming in, using our streets as distribution centers and staying all day. And I think we should look at those two differently. There's also another two issues where one is trucks parking in at curbside but maybe overstaying their welcome versus trucks parking in vehicle lanes. And I think we should look at that distinction very clearly as well. One thought for a citywide solution. Well, yeah, so parking zones would make sense, but if they're abused with a truck parking for 8 hours in a loading zone, that would get rid of the purpose of it. One thought for a citywide solution is we know right now, when anyone violates the law, if you get enough tickets, if you're a serial offender, instead of getting harsher treatment, you can negotiate down the tickets and get off easy, and it just becomes
Just the cost of doing
as I was
business.
about to say. And so we basically have a lot of empty storefronts from stores that are competing against those who are violating our laws. And one thought I have is for the repeat offenders, especially for the egregious offenses such as blocking vehicle traffic, we should have a special class of tickets that can't be negotiated down, and that if you're in a spot long enough, right now if you talk to the police, they can't really do anything. They can't force trucks to leave. They can just give them tickets, and those tickets become less and less costly the more tickets they get. So there should be a special class of tickets that both get more costly and that can't be negotiated down.
So I just want to say something that I guess sounds like it's contrary to everyone else's opinion, but like as a working mom with 2 kids and a super stressful busy job and a husband who travels all the time, I do not see Fresh Direct as a bad guy. I see it as my lifesaver. Same with Amazon that gets delivered on FedEx trucks and UPS trucks. And I see your point, Rich, but I think that we can't solve this problem with harsh enforcement. I think if we're talking about a citywide solution, we should be talking about a proactive way to allow these delivery vehicles to be in our neighborhood in a way that is good for the neighborhood. Because they're not going away. Like, there's no way that people are going to stop using Fresh Direct and stop using Amazon. So let's think of a positive, proactive way to allow them to be integrated into our community.
So,
Nobody
Mark, I have
said it's a bad service at all.
Well, you guys call them the bad guy.
No.
I hear that they are doing some bad acting
Okay,
things.
so I'd like
for
to
sure.
ask Mark a question, because I don't know of whom to ask the question. Gail. No, Gail.
I'm representing Gail.
You
I
are.
just got a promotion.
You are. Does it make any sense to go to Gail Brewer and say, can we have the law changed? And, you know.
Well, Gail doesn't make the law, so.
No, of course she doesn't make
So-
the law, but she is the one who actually helped to put into law the zoning that we have. And she
Yes, but
led
that-
an adjustment to the
Right,
zoning
which she did.
that would allow this.
Would it make
That
sense?
would allow
Would it make
storefronts that, to
be
be
distribution
also be
centers.
distribution center for sold products.
For special
Well,
district.
first of all, that's, I think, not a discussion for Gail, it's a city council discussion. And it's a very serious discussion because it's a slippery slope that once you do it on the Upper West Side, you have to do it in other parts of the
That's what I'm
city.
saying, it has to be a citywide.
So it would have to be a citywide
I'm gonna
initiative.
see Adonis Rodriguez, I'm gonna ask him about this. I'm sure it's not just an Upper West Side issue at all.
No, it is totally a citywide
Would it make
issue.
sense to mandate that the same spot every day can't be used, that they have to change?
Well, there's a whole way of
Create designated
Designated.
Okay, so wait, Ken is, I saw his hand first.
Could I actually answer the question you asked me?
Oh, I didn't think you had one,
So
I'm glad to hear that.
So Roberta's correct that there's the potential that it could be a citywide issue. But there are lots and lots and lots of special commercial districts, including the one that you were referencing, which is the special commercial districts on the Amsterdam and Columbus, that mandate the width of storefronts under certain circumstances. So the zoning resolution is 5 blocks long, in part because there are amendments that relate specifically to almost one location. I mean, theoretically, it's any other location that meets the criteria, but the criteria are so narrowly drawn. So you could do it, and you could address Roberta's concern, but you're all correct that it would be, it actually is a question for our land use committee in the first instance, and then trying to get, and how do you get that done? Gail would be one source, and your city council representative would be the other, but it would actually start with the Department of City Planning, because they're the ones that you would need the cooperation of in order to get a text amendment off the ground that would accomplish your goal. I think it's a worthy goal, by the way.
Okay, great.
You just have them deliver to Sarah and be done.
Let's go back to Ken, thank you.
I agree with Sarah that the way we buy goods has been totally transformed in the last 10 or 20 years. And but our management of the curbs and our streets has not changed at all in 50 years. And we continue to prioritize the long-term storage of private vehicles. And what I mean, we can write all the tickets we want, but if we don't allow people a place to park and to load and unload, which is what the new economy is demanding, and you know, we can cry all we want about the loss of storefronts, but this is what's happening, and you know, it's a
Storefronts are still there, just empty.
Okay, so many people want to comment when you're done.
But anyway, so we need more loading zones, and we need to stop prioritizing the long-term storage of private vehicles.
So I'm just gonna go in order. Doug wants
Sure.
to talk. and
So
then go
I,
on.
as you know, I work as a commercial broker, and I have a feeling that what the Fresh Direct representative said about not being able to rent a storefront is erroneous. I'm not aware, I'm not an architect, and I'm not a zoning expert, but I've had many inquiries about distribution centers. I think that that's their way of saying, I can't even do it, I don't want to do it. They don't want to pay retail rent, that's why they're so cheap.
And they
do
would have to get
compete.
multiple storefronts, obviously, because they have multiple.
Right, and there are many landlords that
Right.
would or would not, if you have a distribution center for whether it's Amazon or Fresh Direct or anything else. I mean, there's music rental companies that have inquired, and what they do is they have pallets on it in and off, and a lot of landlords don't want them at all. And they are not inclined to pay retail rent, that's why they compete. So, and there is an objection from many of the brick and mortar retailers that are, that's why you're seeing Amazon, who now owns Whole Foods, is doing their own service, and they're going to compete very well. So my experience with Fresh Direct in general is just that they go to the path of least resistance. They're always, of course, going to go where their business is. So they need to set up a truck where their orders are and create their own distribution center. But, the squeaky wheels get the grease. When someone says, I've had enough of this truck, and there was a truck parked in front of my building for many years, and I was the president of the tenant association, and it took enough calls and enough from politicians and police department to eventually move them. Then they moved somewhere else. Then they complained about them there. So they just keep moving and paying their tickets. So I don't have a solution, but this is my observation.
I just want to respond to Sarah. I think, delivery is great and it's not going away. It doesn't need to be done from our streets with using our streets as a distribution center. And Fairway offers delivery, Instacart. There are a number of other delivery services.
You don't think I've tried them all? I mean, people use Fresh Direct and Food Kick for a reason, because they're the best service available.
Well, for one, they use it because it's cheaper, because they're not paying rent. So, you can come in and run an illegal business without paying rent and undercut your competition.
It's actually a little more expensive.
Also, just because they have a better system doesn't depend on having distribution on a street. You could have a better technology system but have a brick and mortar location that's legal. They don't want to do that because they want to save money. So the fact that Fresh Direct is effective at what they do doesn't mean that they're not a bad guy.
Roberta? Mickey?
I think there's two problems, and we're kind of talking about both of them at the same time. If you drive down Broadway, or up Amsterdam, down Columbus, during the day, you're lucky if you have one clear lane to drive, because not only are trucks parked in loading zones, they're double parked, or they're triple parked. And if it's triple parked, a UPS truck for a half an hour, or if it's a FedEx truck for an hour, whatever it is, it's clogging the streets, and there's no place for them to go. Contractors build into, and I deal with contractors every day, they build into their price how many tickets they're gonna get every day. And they know it, and everybody knows it, and it's the dirty secret that, oh gosh, I got a ticket. There has to be some management of these vehicles that is a 21st century management, not an 18th century management. We don't have push carts anymore. So that's one part.
We have the ability now.
To have push carts?
With electronic, to actually know exactly when a vehicle arrives in a space, how long it stays, and when it departs.
So we need to implement 21st century product of some kind, whether it's a GPS locator that they all have to have, and maybe you get really harsh. Maybe you say, if Mr. X's truck is parked there for 3 hours, and he's spewing fumes and whatever, we're gonna take his license plate.
Mr. X is someone that comes to MTA meetings, by the
Yeah,
way.
I know he does. We'll take his license plate, or we will not allow this truck into the city. It has to, after several times, I mean, you can't do it the first time, but I think there has to be enforcement that is so firm that people start to think creatively as to how they're going to manage their trucks. Right now, they don't have much, blowback, so they do whatever they want to do.
But
So what if
you're
they
not
triple
gonna
park?
try to
And this is not
find
a
them
problem just for the
place-
Upper West Side.
Mickey, where are they gonna put, where they, assuming they wanna do the right
There-
thing, where are they
there have
gonna
to
put their
be
truck?
loading
On West
zones.
End Avenue.
There have to, no, West End Avenue has no commercial traffic allowed, period.
Yeah, but
And that's
how
the way it
many,
should
how
be
many
because
people,
it's all
or how many
residential.
people get deliveries from UPS and FedEx?
But they come and go, they come and go quickly, because I've
And
been
they-
watching
And they
this.
double park.
They
right?
come, they double park, they drop their packages and they're gone. They're gone in 20 minutes. That's not the issue. The issue is somebody.
still an issue.
Yeah, but it's not as dramatic an issue of
It's not an
a
all-day thing like
UPS
Fresh
truck,
Direct, obviously.
you know, like Fresh Direct or UPS or FedEx on Broadway or in Amsterdam, where they are just piling up the packages and taking their time, you know, dropping them off places. It's a two-part problem.
It's also, it's also not just happening on the West Side, so it,
Oh, try Madison Avenue or First Avenue.
right, it's happening all over Manhattan and probably parts of Brooklyn and probably the Bronx. So.
Okay, so in preparation for next week, we really would need one question answered, and then.
Next month.
Next month.
Please, but you guys are so
You
technical.
know, maybe she wants to have a meeting next week.
Maybe I did.
Put next week in the minutes, you ever think of that?
I'm sorry, that's why I have to read them. And my apologies. In preparation for our next meeting that will cover this, which we presume will be next month, but is not yet a fixed date, I think one question we really need is a factual question answered.
Second Tuesday of February.
This particular meeting is not fixed. Zoning, the zoning won't allow distribution from a storefront. Doug says that's not
So
actually
why don't we
true.
find out?
Not sure.
So why don't we do the following?
We'll do research.
We'll do a little research.
Yes.
We'll do a little research about how other committee boards are dealing with
Could be a
this.
DCA.
I know that we are very lucky here in this committee board that we're basically dealing with trucks, because there are several committee boards that are dealing with buses, with out-of-town buses that are, not using the Port Authority and are using their streets.
Is
So,
there anything
They're
else
actually
we
using
should
our
be-
streets too, by the way.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we should be doing in preparation for next month's meeting? Any other
There's
information we
certainly
need?
no
Any
shortage of
sources?
storefronts if they wander around.
I know, yes, Mark.
If you really want to get far out into a hypothetical conversation, I don't know if you do, but one of the things that we constantly talk around the table about is that when Andrew and I and a few others were at the American Union of Potentially trying to deal with the buses, the thing that we ended up seeing was 3 different FedEx trucks all parked outside of the Beresford and delivering 3 different packages to 3 different apartments, trying to use, in effect, the same loading zone as there was one. The global answer is that FedEx, UPS, USPS, all these different folks have a single delivery system that's zoned and that everybody gets to use. And none of them is gonna like the loss of sovereignty over their delivery vehicles, but that's the long-term solution.
You mean like the city of New York would have a global?
You have to be a
management
franchise and everybody has to buy in.
system? Like
and-
city bikes, but works.
But, I mean, I'm thinking too, like, if when we were talking about congestion pricing, like real congestion pricing in the past, you would need like some technology to be able to identify the cars that are coming into the city. So if you're already putting technology on our streets to track vehicles, you could use it, sort of
You
like
could
what
use
were
the same
saying,
technology.
The same technology to track the
Right.
vehicles that are coming in, and it could be a whole, I mean, we should be thinking the way we can use technology to solve these problems.
so I think we have a few questions to ask and bring in next time. I just want to I just want to remind everybody that and I will send out an email as soon as I know, but the Rotunda is coming hopefully on the 28th of.
I mean, that's been out in endless email, so I assume it is coming on the 28th to the 3 committees.
Well, they're supposed to
Maybe
get,
4 committees.
they're supposed to get back to me.
Oh, still not
It's
firm.
basically 3 committees, but I will send the email out very soon, but keep it on your calendar in the meantime.
What's our end goal? What do we want to get after next month's meeting, after Fresh Direct is here? Are we driving towards a resolution on citywide proposals of legislation that should be passed? Are we driving towards?
We don't know.
Well, should we talk through what we might want to achieve?
Yeah, right.
Because they're going to be here, it's going to be harder to figure out where we want this to go. And I think if we have some advanced planning, we can be more effective next month when they're here. And I think my thought is, when they're here, it's gonna be largely a fact-finding mission.
I think last time they were here, we asked them what the zone of each of their trucks is, how far they deliver from each truck, and I think they told us in approximately 10 blocks.
Right.
So that being the case, think of how many of their trucks are on the Upper West Side. If it's only 10 blocks.
Well, I think we need to ask,
radius.
I think we need to come up with the questions we want to ask them, which is, how many what times of the day, how many trucks? Because what we noticed,
What percentage are
that there
double
were
parked
certain
versus-
areas where one truck pulls out, one truck is there from like 6 in the morning until noon. It pulls out as the next truck arrives.
What is the technology
That's what I
during
was
the
gonna
summer months
Right.
for keeping things refrigerated without running the engine?
Right.
Right. But also, I'm curious what technology, if they can describe to us the technology they use to do something like that, to track where the truck is and how the next truck is coming.
Well, they know where the trucks are, they know, so.
But like,
I-
yeah, but-
We should, but we should be able to find that out. We should also find out what kind of volumes they're doing. And, are there certain times of the day that, like, do more people get their food early morning or in the evening, which would make the most sense if you're working.
Except that more and more buildings have cold rooms,
Right.
which means that they can deliver all day long.
Right, but a lot of buildings,
But they can identify which buildings have cold rooms.
no, they do,
Is that
but
where you got your cold?
Yes.
Are you done already, Roberta?
Yeah, I'm
Are you done?
It strikes me that if we were to have a magic wand and be able to pick a solution, there are kind of two extremes. One is Sarah's of saying, they're not going away, we need to make them legal and figure out what we have to do to accommodate Fresh Direct so they can operate legally. The other extreme is me of saying, we've got our laws, they're completely violating them, they're undercutting our existing retailers. We should enforce the law and they shouldn't be able to run an illegal business in our streets. A third option is kind of where we are now, which is ducking our head in the sand and saying like,
Enforce the laws, they get tickets all the time.
yeah, but it's
We're
a,
just asking for a slightly more intense version of what we're already doing, and it's not working. So why do you think that more intense?
why?
what's
Because
not
right
working
now,
will work
the
anyway?
way that we're enforcing the law is still advantageous enough to them that they're willing to accept tickets as a cost of doing
So
business.
what, I mean,
So Fairway has fruit stands and vegetable stands on the street, on the sidewalk, which is
And
not,
the deliveries cover the entire sidewalk for hours.
which is not legal, and they have, and all this stuff, and they get fined, and they have figured out that they're making enough money from having this stuff on the street, that whatever the fines are, it's worth the cost of business to them.
Yeah, but then my point is,
Excuse me, I just think that we're trying to enforce 20th and 19th century laws that are on the books with a 21st century delivery situation. We have to
Really look at it.
change the laws so that they are applied properly to double and triple park cars.
Right.
That businesses understand what they can and can't do in terms of when they can occupy space on the street and when they can't. And with new laws, that it's like, we don't have laws against God knows what anymore. Something that was illegal 100 years ago is legal today, like prohibition. We're now drinking again. So,
Oh, I thought you meant the phone.
oh, sorry, but
Speak for
you know what
yourself.
I'm saying. You're talking to a water drinker. Anyway, but the bottom line is that we have to move with the times, and we have to be proactive. We have to say, not only is this happening today, but what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen 10 years from now? How are we going to be able to manage our streets?
which is
But
sort
in-
of like
it's-
Elizabeth's
wait,
point
wait.
for the forum she wants.
Andrew was speaking next.
I was just gonna say, one of the things we might wanna ask them is, what do they look for in a space? I think the reason that for many, over a year, they were on the east side of Amsterdam between 87th and 88th is because they were not under anybody's window
And
there.
99th and 100th by the playground.
I think they strive for that, but they can't always get that. We need to ask them to
And
really.
maybe we
And
can
they were
help them,
Sherman Square for a while
maybe we can
until
help
the
them
people there.
identify
Yeah.
places.
But if we're identifying places, why wouldn't we just make those official? Do you know what I mean? Like an
That's what we're
official
talking about.
loading.
That's
what
what
we're
we're talking about.
but if we do that,
But
if we do that, are we giving these spaces to Fresh Direct, or if other businesses see, hey, I don't have to have a retail space, I can operate in the streets?
But
Yeah,
maybe they
if you
have-
start having 10, are they gonna
Well,
have,
maybe they
start
have
fighting
to
over
have-
those spots?
Maybe they have to have a certain kind of license, which costs them money to do that.
But I don't think we're giving a spot to Fresh Direct, I'm just saying we create a loading.
But we could, you know, like
But
if
it
I
would
wanna,
be Fresh
if I wanna park, if I wanna,
someone
if I
else
wanna
gets it
park
first.
on, if I wanna park on Amsterdam Avenue, because I wanna do some shopping, I don't have a car, but if I did, and I park my little car there, I put money in the meter, and I pay for my time there.
$10.40 for 2 hours now.
Whatever it is,
Yes.
we could have a meter.
Yeah.
We
Or-
have a meter, they're called parking tickets, and they pay them.
Right, but we could have another system. So if we decided that we'd rather have Fresh Direct on that corner rather than on that corner, we could, you know, maybe, and it's a model that might work for the rest of the city. It's gotta be something that we're gonna do, we have to be able to sell it or market it to the electeds and to DOT, so it's gotta make some sense.
But maybe they do need a certain kind of certificate, or whatever you would call it, that would allow them to park
Park there
for a
and-
certain time of
for- and
day, at a
certain
certain
price.
place,
And a
every
certain
day,
price.
and for a price.
Yeah.
What's the deal with food trucks? We don't really have any on the Upper West Side, but there are
What are you
lots of other
kidding?
Sure we do.
Tons of them.
Stop and Shop and Peapod make deliveries.
There's
all
one
the
right
time.
on the
No,
corner.
I mean food trucks, like to
food
go,
trucks.
to make noise
Yeah, there are
and
some parking
speak.
One right
Yeah.
on the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
have
no, I meant the
cars.
ones that
Mr.
park on the
Softy, I like
street.
him.
You know, the
Yeah.
ones that park on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here.
We have a couple,
Yeah.
we have a
Well,
couple.
okay, whatever, other neighborhoods have.
They
They're
have-
carts,
have
they do
permits.
coffee and
Permits,
bagels and
they have
eggs.
a- And it's like a mafia.
We have plenty of
Permits are
those.
like $100
So
a
they get
year.
permits.
We, trust me, we have
to
plenty of
sit
those.
there.
Yeah,
You
So
know-
we could
Bad
have a
news.
system where Fresh Direct gets a permit to use a
Well, that's
thing.
basically
Hopefully
what
a
it
lot
is.
better than
Well,
that.
sure,
We still don't
maybe
get
that
to
needs
say
to
where
be
they go.
reformed too.
All right, are we done?
But effectively, we have that. The permit right now is parking tickets, and it's a matter of market economics. If the parking tickets are cheaper than other alternatives, they're happy to pay them. If we have permits, are we gonna charge market rate? Are we gonna bid on them? Or are we gonna have enough spots so that everyone who has a permit
We
gets
can't
a spot?
decide that, we don't get,
Yeah.
we get make
Of course
suggestions.
we can.
We get to make suggestions, we
Richard,
don't.
this is bringing up ideas session, not making a decision session.
Right?
So, Dan?
Okay, it was the
Last-
last.
la- You're the last comment.
Sorry. Well, this is sort of a group concept, but, and I don't know if this sort of crosses over between BCI and transportation, but I just, first of all, a couple of supermarket owners in the neighborhood asked me specifically, because I know them, to bring up the topic of a lot of the fruit stands that are near their location that are cutting their prices because they have no rent. Where a local supermarket in this neighborhood is paying $100,000 a month, and they are upset about it. They're not sure. So I don't know what, I know it's a DCA permit, I assume, I don't know if they're allowed to be there 24/7, but they often are in warm weather. So that was one of the questions.
Bad weather.
Right.
We had a similar issue with a pizza salesman in front of a brick and mortar pizza store, on 69th Street, I believe it was.
Right, and so we constantly hear the outcry of helping the brick and mortar and the retailers, and these are,
Right.
you know, I'm not saying that we necessarily hurt the fruit stand guys, but,
It's allergies,
but it's,
something that was,
but it's been brought to my attention, and it was.
No, it's a
it
good
was-
point.
Yeah.
It's a very good point.
One of the answers to that, or one of the complications to that, is that I believe those are on the sidewalk carts as opposed to trucks. And so they're under the jurisdiction of DCA, not the Department of Health, interestingly enough, even though it's not food. And I'm pretty sure that they fall into the same category as those food carts that are on the sidewalk that sell food as
Hot dog
opposed to
stands
raw
and-
vegetables and so forth, which is to say that that no one in city government can tell you tomorrow where so-and-so is going to be because they're not required. You're not given a spot. You're not required to register or pay for any one particular location, with the only exception that if you happen to be on what's considered parkland, then the Department of Parks requires you to do that, but not DCA and not DOH. So it's.
So they can't open up directly in front of their competition.
It is so wrong, and I'm so.
They could.
Yeah.
Are there
Coffee
curb
stands do
battles
it
among
constantly.
the
There's a coffee
vendors?
stand called Starbucks for years. Yeah.
There can be, I've seen, guys, if you go to the, right by the, I'm gonna use the word Trump Hotel, that little island where, you're right by Columbus Circle, there are food carts on the sidewalk, one after another, many selling almost exactly the same thing. And
Sure.
they do, and they park them by having some sort of SUV like a Jeep with a trailer hitch, and they bump it up onto the curb, and some of these guys actually jockey for position. Most of them say, hey, that's my corner, this is my corner. But it is A, dangerous, and B, no, it is not in any way regulated, because again, the fundamental precept is, the city doesn't give you a space, they just give you the right to vend. So on the day in which they blow up the balloons, the guys, for the Macy's Day Parade, they're gonna be on my block, and on the day of the marathon, they're gonna be on your block, because that's where the family meetup center is, right? They are Fairweather Friends and Scavengers, they're the seagulls of New York City.
And yeah, we at Transportation Committee have no say in this very important landscape on.
But we
could
Other than to say that you should have a say, and I would, yeah.
I think we're done. Thank you,
Thanks, everybody.
Meeting's over, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey,
Well
it was
done.
my first meeting.
Yeah.
Need to-